a recording, but you go ahead and you can flip your screen.
I will in just a minute. I just want to say something really quick. First of all, thanks to Deb, we tried this several times to get it right. So we're keeping our fingers crossed it works. And Gail, your your friend Deb, you're right. The true connector. My goodness. I mean, it's unbelievable everything that you do, Deb. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Now I'll share my screen. We'll
So
do our
Audrey Krebs,
best.
while she's doing that, I'll make the introduction. Audrey Krebs is with Aging Services. She's up here in the mountain community, but she really services the Denver area, but certainly can service Conifer, Bailey, Evergreen, with helping to see if I get this your intro right, Audrey. She helps our senior citizens and places them in the best care facilities that can be found in our mountain community. And that is Audrey. She's got a compassion. I got to speak from my heart. She's got a compassion for the our aging community and does. Oops, we lost your presentation, Audrey. You need to
I
go
know.
back to it.
Well, okay,
Okay.
just I'm still working here.
Okay.
Okay, keep going. You keep talking, Deb.
If
Like
you
what
know
you
a
have to say.
senior, Mary Pat,
Whatever.
or anyone that knows of a senior that needs services, Audrey's the person to go to. But she's going to tell us today about these facilities and about the aging community. So I'm handing it off to you, Miss Audrey.
Okay, thank you. And can everybody see my presentation?
You can. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself now.
Eh, But is everybody on? I mean, can you see
And
it?
we're all here
And you can see it.
as we
Yep,
can.
I'm sorry, what was that?
we
And we
can see the
Good.
presentation. We can see everybody
Yay.
who's on the
Okay,
call.
you can
We're
see it.
good.
All right. Well, it's sharing my screen that's not a full screen, but I'm going to do my best. Anyway, thanks, Deb, for the intro. And yes, I've been doing this for over 20 years. So, aging services consultants, we work as care managers as well as placement advisors. But today, all of you are going to learn everything you wanted to know about senior, older adult communities. I'm sure you all want to know that, right? Whether it's for yourself or for a friend or for a loved one. There's so much and there's so many different ways a person can go as far as planning for their future and maximizing their quality of life. So I'm going to take you through this presentation just like this. We're just going to scroll down kind of through my book. I have a book that I hand out to my clients that helps them understand the differences, the different types of communities, as well as how to move forward, again, to maximize their quality of life. So, what we do with aging services now, there's lots of placement officers now, advisors, I should say. There's lots of different placement advisors, and typically, how we don't charge. We don't charge clients to assist them in finding their forever home, but there are some placement advisors that do charge. And how we get paid by the communities when we place a person. Now, that can be a conflict of interest if an advisor doesn't have their client's best interest, but you'll find that I do. And as Deb said, I believe, I think you said this, Deb, I've been in aging services for over 20 years, working with the veterans homes. I started a veterans home in Minnesota, the only employee for a year. Anyway, when we're looking at helping someone with placement, the first thing that aging services does is a geriatric assessment. We look at their physical, mental, social, and financial needs. And I just have a conversation with people just to make sure so that we know exactly what it is they're looking for, and I can make recommendations on 3 or 4 different places that meet their needs. So here are some questions to consider before a person moves. They need to take a look at their lifestyle. Why is it that they may want to move? Do they need assistance with healthcare needs or meals? Do they want to live independently? Do people need transportation? What types of activities do they like to do? And what type of community are they looking for? And we're going to talk about the different communities, but there's so many different. I mean, there's small homes, there's huge apartment complexes, there's townhouses, there's duplexes, all different kinds. So we go through those questions. And then financially, and a lot of people don't want to talk about finances, but they really need to, because there's so many different ways that communities assess people. I mean, you can go from just independent living for $2,400 a month, including meals and transportation and activities, all the way up to $8,000 or more. I mean, there's some places that even ask for $500,000, just to put down. And supposedly now families will get 90% back upon death. Then those individuals that don't have much savings, there's also long-term care, Medicaid, that will pay for their lifestyle and what it is that they need. But they need to qualify, and we can talk about that as well a little later, maybe. So that's why it's important to know what the monthly income is, what the investments are, because some people may qualify for long-term care Medicaid and some won't. Okay. What's necessary to prepare for a move? Do you need to sell your home? Do you want to be close to your family and friends? And when do you want to move? And do you really need to move? Do you need a physician to sign off? So if you need a physician, there's some independent living communities that require a physician to qualify a person for independent living. Even I know of a community that needs a physician's signature, and they need it for 2 years, that the physician has to say that they would be okay living independently for a minimum of 2 years. Also, those that have dementia or need memory care, typically they need a physician to qualify them for memory care. So there's a lot of things that go into thinking about a future move. We're going to go through the housing needs checklist now. Okay, what type of community do you want? Do you want a great big apartment complex? Do you want just a small home? Do you want a ground floor location? Do you need special accommodations for accessibility? Are you in a wheelchair or walker? Do you need a large room, a small room? Do you want meals provided? There's places that you could go to independent living that's just like an apartment. You cook your own meals, or you can buy them from the community. And we'll talk about that too for a continuum of care community. So, what is it that a person really wants? And again, the geriatric assessment that I use with my clients will help people identify exactly what it is they need. And I worked, and I think Deb told you, I worked for the Department of Human Services for over 16 years in aging services. And I still worked with public health and environment, as well as healthcare policy and finance and the area agencies on aging. And I'm still working with all of those agencies. In fact, I work with Ann Schutz with environmental accessibility, helping people to determine what their accessibility needs are. And if your accessibility needs, meaning I wear glasses, that's that's sometimes I wear glasses, you can see, but that's something that people need at times, and that's accessibility, or a walker or whatever. But people that are older adults, typically, that haven't been with the different ability community. That's the politically correct way of saying people with disabilities. We say different ability communities or people. The older adults are not familiar with their accessibility things that they can get to help them maximize their quality of life. Anyway, so we go through these questions. Now we're going to talk about senior living options. This is everything that you want to know about senior living. Continuum of Care Retirement Communities, CCRC. That's what I recommend, actually, for most of my clients, so they never, ever have to move again. That's independent. What a CCRC has is independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled care. A lot of them have skilled care. Some don't, but there are some that do. And skilled care is nursing home and rehab care. So in a CCRC, there's just they just don't have to move necessarily. They might have to move from apartment to apartment, but they won't necessarily have to move from the community if they're happy in that community. And continuum of care retirement communities there's so many different styles, so many different prices. And I mean, a person could move into a community, into a 30-bedroom community, or they could move into a 200-bedroom community. It just depends. And they could also move into a place that has townhouses or duplexes away from the main building. And the main building may host assisted living, memory care, and skilled care. So there's just so many different ways to go. And always remember this, please. If you are ever on your own looking for a community for a loved one or a family member, always go directly to that community and to that website. Please, please do not just click on the first website, which might be caring.com or a place for mom. There's legislation that I was involved with creating, helping create this legislation, and it helps people understand how placement advisors get paid and how we can get away from caring.com, a place for mom, because typically people click on those websites and they can't get away. In fact, I was a secret shopper once, about 15 years ago. I wanted to see what a place for mom was like. And they wouldn't let go. They just wouldn't let me. I had to finally threaten to take them to a Better Business Bureau if they didn't, and file a complaint against them if they didn't stop. Because what they do is they just refer people. They might do a mini assessment, but they really don't care. They'll refer people to places that they don't even qualify for. So we're going to keep going. Independent living communities. There's some communities that are strictly independent living communities, and they can vary, as I said, in price from typically $2,400, and there's a wonderful community in Littleton. I'm not going to name the communities. You can call me if you want the names, because it's not fair. I'm not advertising for the communities, but it's a wonderful community. It's on a golf course, and it provides meals. And for between $2,400 a month to $32,000, you can get an 1,100 square foot 2-bedroom apartment with meals, with transportation and activities. And then there's other communities that are so-so. I work with public health and environment to see, how these communities are rated. Now, they don't rate independent senior living communities, but they may look pretty, but just because they look pretty, and I got sucked into that when I first left the state. I left the state because I should probably not tell you
No,
why.
this is recorded.
I know. Okay. Well, I was bored. Thank you, Deb. I was bored. And I just loved working directly with older adults, which I did with the veterans' homes. And so instead, I was working programs, lots of programs all over the state. And so once I got hired as an assistant administrator in this beautiful community, and I'm not going to say which one, it was not so beautiful inside. I mean, it was beautiful on the outside. So be careful, just be careful. And a lot of independent senior living communities also have access to doctors that they have programs that they work with that they'll come into the community and offer their medical services, as well as there's quite often um, what's the word? Well, there's different medical systems within communities that they can use. Okay. Now, assisted senior living communities, that's when somebody needs assistance with their activities of daily living, such as bathing, dressing, grooming, toileting. Now, they call medication monitoring an ADL, but I don't believe that's really an ADL. Anyway, typically, to qualify for assisted living communities, you probably need at least 2 ADLs. You don't want to move into assisted living unless you have a partner that's there and you want to live with them. But typically, people that are in assisted living really need some extra help, such as bathing or dressing, and actually even feeding themselves. That's an ADL. That's an activity of daily living. And being able to transfer and walk and toilet. So that's what assisted living communities, and there's so many different assisted living communities. There's single family homes, and there's some really, really good ones. And people can live the rest of their life in a single family home that's been licensed for assisted living. Now, you do want to make sure a lot of homes can take up to 2 people that need assistance without being licensed. But you do want to, if I would recommend going to a licensed community, if it were my family member that needed to go. And if they wanted a small home, I would suggest getting a licensed community. And you can also look online at public health and environment and find out if there's any deficiencies with those communities. Typically, there's a couple deficiencies because, being they monitor these places and that's their job to find things that are wrong, they'll come up with something and usually it's something that's not very serious. But if you see a community, and I have found communities, like there was one assisted living community, and it was a very large community, and it was beautiful, and it charged, believe it or not, that community, for a friend of mine, her partner lives there now, and it was beautiful. It is beautiful on the outside. $10,000 a month this person is paying for a large 1-bedroom assisted living apartment. 10,000, and he's being neglected. I can tell you, it's a shame. And they have 26 deficiencies against them. So it's my suggestion that you do go to public health and environment and look online if you're ever going to look at assisted living. Or even also, if you're looking at skilled and long-term healthcare community, well, those are nursing homes. That would be skilled. And skilled community, if a person needs a nursing home, they need more than assisted living. They actually need, and these are the words I was trying to think of. Some assisted living and independent living communities have physical therapy and occupational therapy right on site as well. But if somebody needs a nursing home, typically Medicare will pay too, depending on what it is they need and how their doctor prescribes the nursing home. So people can move from assisted living or from memory care into a nursing home. And if you're in a CCRC that has a nursing home, that's really great, because let's just say there's a husband and wife together, and we'll say the wife really doesn't, they've been an independent, but then the husband really needs more assistance. Sometimes they can get assistance coming right into their apartment in independent, but then again, if they have to move to assisted living, they don't have to leave the community. Or let's just say the husband had needed nursing home care or skilled rehab. So he could go into the nursing home, whether it's for the forever or whether it may be just for 30 days. And then the wife can go visit while she's still living independently in the same community. That's really a great, that's a great way to go, I would think. Then memory care. Now, memory care, again, can be part of a CCRC, but for memory care, there's over 100 different types of dementia. So a lot of people think of Alzheimer's. And yeah, there are people with Alzheimer's in memory care, but there's other people with frontal lobe dementia. Just a brain injury could put a person in memory care. And some memory cares, there's again small places, there's apartment complexes that provide memory care. And typically, if a person is in memory care, typically it is a locked community. So because people that are in memory care like to wander, and you don't want them getting lost outside, that's for sure. So anyway, and I have a couple that I was working with, and she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and he had physical issues that he was dealing with, but cognitively he was all there. I worked as their care manager for a year and a half, I guess. And people, I have to tell you, people always take their time and say they're not ready to move. They want to see places, but they're not ready. Well, we went and saw 4 different places, and they liked all 4, but they weren't ready to move. And they lived in a beautiful 3-bedroom apartment, all 1 floor in Cherry Hills. Okay. Well, guess what? He fell. He wouldn't use his walker regularly. He fell. And she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and they were living by themselves independently in this apartment. Lo and behold, he was rushed to the hospital. I went to the hospital. I took care of, what needed to be taken care of, but he was in the hospital for 5 weeks with 2 brain surgeries. He had, hit his head and he had a brain bleed. And his poor wife, they had to move immediately to a community. The family moved them right away. And they said, and I make recommendations, but I will not say, oh, you shouldn't move there. I mean, if it's their choice and that's where they want to go, that's where they want to. But they moved, and it wasn't my choice, I can tell you. They moved into a beautiful community, a wonderful, wonderful assisted living community. However, only assisted living, only. And her Alzheimer's is really starting to progress. I mean, it was fine for a year, but it's not fine now. And I'm afraid they're going to have to move to find this person memory care. So that's what can happen. Then quickly, there's planned adult 55 plus communities that people can move into if they'd like, just apartment complexes. And there's condos, townhomes, garden homes, patio homes. In fact, I was working with an individual that wanted to move from the mountains, and she's in her 70s, and she's thinking she needs to get ready to move. And so we were looking at patio homes for her, and eventually possibly continuum of care. Now, I talked about long-term care, subsidized housing. Well, there's subsidized housing, it's called long-term care Medicaid, but a person can't have over $2,900 in assets. And that means not only, my cat's gonna get on my computer now, hopefully. Anyway, $2,900, that means savings, that means investments, whatever. However, if a couple is married and one person needs to go into memory care or assisted living, which those are the only two that would take long-term care Medicaid, okay? Not independent. Independent won't take long-term care Medicaid, but the spouse can keep the house. The house isn't qualified. They don't take the house into account as far as assets or cars or personal belongings. That being said, I'm not a Medicaid specialist, but I could refer people to somebody that is, and they could help. They could help get an individual qualified for long-term care Medicaid. But things have to be transferred. Your assets have to be transferred. There's a 5-year look back, so you can't just transfer. There are companies that will help put money in a trust so that people can qualify without the 5-year transfer. They can qualify. So, but again, and they'll help you put money in a trust, but they'll also charge. And I know the average fee is $10,000 to $12,000 so that people can get on long-term care Medicaid. Now, you ask, when we are looking at a senior living, when we're going on a tour for senior living, there's special questions that you want to ask. First of all, the main question that I believe is so important: how long has the staff been with the community? And if the administrator's been with the community 5 or more years, and there's some staff that's been with the community, let's say the community's been open for 30 years, there's staff, I know of communities where staff actually have been there for 20, 25 years. I haven't heard over 25, but maybe, I'm sure there probably are. And if that says to me, if the community is taking care of their staff, then the staff is taking care of the residents. And I mean, it really, there is, there's documentation to show. I mean, that is legitimate. But then you want to ask, what type of menu? You might even go to the community and talk to some residents different times of day and find out how they feel about where they live. People will be very honest. Some people will be very honest, and we've met those people. You want to ask about rate increases, because typically every year there is a rate increase, typically between 3% and 5%, we've found. And then what's included in the monthly rent? Is transportation included? Are activities included? You name it. There's just so many different questions you can ask. And when you visit a community, go at different times. And really, I would suggest always trying the food out as well. So, okay. You can really get a feel when you visit a community, and if you're asking the right questions, and typically I have a list of questions that I give my clients to ask, and together we create a list. Now, I'm not able to see people, and Deb was going to take notes. Are there any questions to anything that I've talked about?
Hi, Audrey. I have a question. This is Kathy Snyders.
Sure.
Turn my video on so I can see.
What's your question, Kathy?
My parents, my mom won't even talk about moving into assisted living because she said that she had friends um that had to pay for two apartments because one of the partners needed the care, the special care, and the other one didn't, so they wouldn't let them both move in together. Is that common, or is that
That depends on the community. Every community is different. And I think that poor couple went to the wrong community.
okay?
They needed, and see that's why now I have that couple, and he's got some physical challenges, and she's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So, but they're still in the same apartment. Now, again, if she does have to move to memory care in a different community, I'm sure her husband won't be going into memory care with her. But again, they could find a community. Oh, my kitty's just knocking things off my desk now. They could go into a community where you could have caregivers come in as well. And possibly, and that might be an alternative for this couple as well, because she's not a wanderer. But if she was, it would be a problem. But there are communities where, where they could make it work, where the couple
Okay.
would not have to leave.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Kathy. Thanks for the question.
Rachel?
Another question?
Rachel does.
Oh, I had
Okay.
not a question, but something that I've learned too. It's important to try to do all this not last minute, because a lot of these facilities have waiting lists too, don't they, Audrey?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. See, and that's a big problem. Thank you for asking. Thank you for bringing up that, Rachel, because yes. Let me finish here, because what happens is we go and visit. I have a client I've worked with for almost 3 years now. And every year we go visit communities, and I tell her we're spinning our wheels, because if they have an opening now and she likes this community, when she's ready to move, and she's in her 90s, but she's not ready to move, she's living independently. However, eventually she's got macular degeneration with her eyes, and eventually she will have to move, and she has found a community, but again, they may not have an opening, or things change, prices change, administrators change, you name it so much changes. And that's a great question, Rachel. Did you have something else you wanted to say about that?
No, I just knew that was an important thing that people don't realize. They don't always have openings.
Right. And I know one of my friends that's a realtor said that she has one of her clients that she sold his house, and he's in his mid to late 70s. He's 78, I believe. Anyway, he went into independent living, into a community that is a continuum of care community. And he wouldn't take any help from her or anybody else. He did it on his own. But do you know, he said, I should have done this sooner. He's having a ball right now. And so he's really happy. And I have another couple that they have physical challenges as well. But they moved into independent living, and they prepared ahead of, because they know that assisted living in the next few years is probably coming up. So they moved into a continuum of care community. One other couple, she's an athlete, mid 70s. He's in his mid 70s, but he's got Parkinson's. And do you know, and I'm their care manager, and I've showed them places. Last summer, we went to several places that they liked, but they're not ready to move for a couple years. That's what his wife says. She said she's not ready to move. I said, you're not ready to move. How about your husband? But see, he'll do whatever she does. Well, guess what? He walks on all fours going up and down the stairs. It's really dangerous, really dangerous. And when I suggested a chairlift, oh, he doesn't need that right now. Okay.
In denial.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And most people, and I have to tell you, it took me 2.5 years to get my father to agree to go into independent. When he was in his early 70s after my mother died, he wanted me to see places. And I said, oh, no, Dad, you don't need that. Not now. When he hit 84, he needed it. And then he wasn't going to go. But anyway, other questions? Any other questions?
Are you ever able to help anybody? Like, I worry about my mom out of state. She's 82. She's still living independently. Would you ever be able to help me get that list of what to look for if we would have to in a crunch or something like that?
I wouldn't be able to give you a list, but I could give you recommendations of people you can call. Every state has area agencies on aging, and our state has, it's called ADRC, Aging Disability Resources for Colorado. But every state has them, and aging area agencies on aging have a responsibility to help older adults age 60 and older, believe it or not, 60 and older.
Thank you.
Also, there's the senior, I'm a certified senior advisor. There's states that have certified, and I can give you, and I can help people if they have out of state relatives, and I won't charge anybody, of course, but I can give you the names of people to contact that can help.
And Rachel, this is Audra, just a testimonial for Audrey. She did just that for Steve and I 3 years ago with Steve's mom in
that's
Illinois.
right.
She helped us both connect with who we needed to out there. And then when it came time for us to fly her out to Colorado, Audrey was the one that found the placement for her. So I know I put it in the chat box, but honestly, sincerely, if you need help with any relative, spouse, whatever, Audrey's your gal. She gives her whole heart and soul into it. So
okay, Audrey, here's a kiss for you. Mwah. Thank you.
it's true. It's true.
Thank you. Well,
Audrey, do you have a list or a contact regarding the long-term Medicaid attorneys that you would recommend in the state?
There's attorneys, they're called elder law attorneys. And I don't know, some work with Medicaid, some don't, but you could also, if you call the area agency on aging, they have people that they can refer you to if whoever it is that needs it, they can help get them set up with long-term care Medicaid.
And I'm sorry, who would that be to call? The long-term what?
Well, you want to look up ADRC, Aging Disability Resources for Colorado, through the Denver Area Agency on Aging. And they can refer you. Healthcare policy, it's called HCPF, Healthcare Policy and Finance, actually provide Medicaid, long-term care Medicaid. And okay, this is being recorded. It's difficult working with HCPF. I'm just telling you, okay? So, any other questions? And I can certainly, if somebody comes to me that is financially challenged and can't find an assisted, there are assisted living communities, very few and far between, that serve just long-term care Medicaid. But then there are some that if, say, a person only has 100,000 in assets, they can, oh, that was my kitty knocking something off my desk. Anyway, they have, it's called spend down. Communities have spend down, where you spend down your assets and they will also help a person. So then the person doesn't have to move from that community because not all communities provide for long-term care Medicaid residents, but there are some that do. There are quite a few that do. Okay. Anything? Another question? We have a few more, just 3 more minutes.
I think you've covered it.
I just want to say thank you, Audrey. And yes, it is so important to really look earlier than later in terms of the future.
Yeah, thank you.
Audrey, what's your phone number?
My phone number?
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you my personal, 303-903-4923 is my personal. But here, guys, I'm going to go back to this. and you can see my card. How's that?
Great.
There you go. And that's my business number. And I'm also a QMAP, that's a qualified medication administration person, and that you get that through it's a certification. But yeah, so anyway. So any other questions?